Thanks very much for having me here today. I really look forward to talking you through this presentation on going from surviving to thriving through and well beyond this lockdown period, both for organizations and individuals. And I'm going to do this through talking to finding your A game, how to do this, and why it's so important at this time. And during this lockdown period, I asked myself the question, what is the most pressing need going to be for organizations and individuals as they move through and beyond this period? And it was a really tough question because what was very obvious was that people were having a vast range of experiences. Some people in organizations were really thriving and some were really struggling. I looked at the period almost as a promotion relegation, to use a sporting analogy, period of our economic season. And if we were to actually take a look at what does a graph look like, for example, of a sports season, and what you would find is it's almost divided into three, and we can translate this back into our organizational or personal context. There are going to be some individuals, organizations, and teams that emerge from this thriving. It's metaphorically like those sports teams that make the qualifiers, the quarters, semis, and the finals. We'll have a number of people, and there are already people who are in survival mode, hoping or waiting for things to change. Metaphorically, it's like those will be treading water, waiting for things to change, where the people thriving will those be people who are actually swimming and powering on ahead. And unfortunately, there will be some who metaphorically get relegated. And the question I look to answer is, how can I help as many people move from surviving into that thriving space as we go through this, and to have as few people as possible, particularly those who don't need to get relegated, moving into the surviving and maybe even into the thriving space. And in working with a number of elite athletes that I was doing during the lockdown period, I found myself and I found them often using the term A game. We need to, more now than ever before, we need to bring our A game to this period. And after a while, I actually stopped and I thought, hang on, what are we talking about here? And I asked those athletes, well, you use the term, you've been on your A game, you know it. What do you mean? What are the component parts of your A game that you know you need to tick those boxes and then you've made your A game? And fascinatingly, none of them could give me a comprehensive answer. I found a number of other athletes. I also did a Google search. You can do that quickly, and you will actually not find anywhere what an A game actually is, although we talk about it all the time. And that really led to me spending literally 2 months during the lockdown period designing what the Find Your A Game series. And through that, I actually guide people through the key components of an A game. I help them discover their unique A game and what the core components are, to build on that A game to be relevant for these current times, and then to execute on it in the face of more challenges and distractions than what we previously ever had to navigate. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey as we moved into 2020. I personally was calling it 2020. We all had plans. We were excited about what the year had in store for us. And then all of a sudden, boom, we get hit with this pandemic. And it's almost like an athlete who's prepared for a season. They've got big goals, big aspirations, and then suddenly out of nowhere, they're struck by a career-limiting injury. Many of them, and similar to what happened with us, say they never saw it coming. It pulled the carpet out from underneath their career, and it left them wondering, will I be able to come back? When will I come back? If I do come back, will I actually be able to come back as good as I was? And many of us, like that athletes, the first, and I want to talk us through sort of 5 parts of this journey that many of us might resonate with, is the decline. And that's characterized by things like, it started off with denial early on. It's not going to come to South Africa. It's not going to come to us. And then as it moves closer and we start feeling the impact, we start moving to a blame place, blaming the Chinese, blaming the guilt of the greed of humanity, for example, blaming the Chinese eating habits or Donald Trump. And then as it moves even closer and it starts impacting us, we start feeling the stress. And as that stress builds and we look at our own lives and we start wondering, are people that I know going to get sick? Am I going to get sick? What does this mean for me, for my business? What does it mean for the future? And the more we look down the line and start focusing on the things that might go wrong, the more the energy of fear starts building up within us. And that charge that's going on inside us needs to go somewhere. And very often, and we've seen a lot of this, it starts spilling over in anger as we discharge the energy that's built up inside us. And we've seen a lot of adults behaving badly through this period of time. Unfortunately, if we stay in that cycle, that part of the decline, it leads, unfortunately, down to a state of depression and can even get worse than that. Just to talk about the decline and highlight some of the things that potentially hold us in the cycle is it's ruminating and thinking a lot about problems, focusing on the negativity, the doom and the gloom media that about things that might go wrong in the future. That raises the fear. So one of the things that characterizes getting stuck in the decline is when we find ourselves being consumed by thinking constantly about all the things that might go wrong in the future. Another thing that holds us in the decline is thoughts that this shouldn't be happening. It's resisting the current reality. It's like having plans for a day and then waking up and you see it's raining and then getting all upset because it's raining. The fact is, this is happening. The third sort of thought form that holds us in this place is the judgment that they're doing this all wrong. The government's getting wrong. The regulations are wrong. We should be coming out of this. We should be opening up stuff. And if we find ourselves sweating the uncontrollables, those things over which we have no control, it leaves us feeling powerless and holds us in that decline state. And the fourth piece that I've already touched on earlier is thoughts about when will this end. It leaves people treading water, waiting and hoping for things out there to change. All of these things are characteristic thought processes that hold us in that decline space. So what we want to do is get to the second part of the journey, which is the turning point. And that's characterized, first of all, things like the denial, the blame, stress, fear, anger, those all start decreasing. Sure, they're there, but they're not dominating our existence on a day-to-day basis. They fade into the background. Instead of being consumed by the problems of the future, we start gaining a bit of perspective on the past, that we've been through really difficult times, me personally and the world, and we've come through it okay. Perspective on the present. Yes, things are difficult, but actually there's a whole lot of really good things that are happening. There's a whole lot of reset buttons getting pressed. A whole lot of stuff's getting refreshed. Nature's loving this period. And when we look to the future, it's not all doom and gloom. We see that there really are opportunities. So it's really just balancing the positive and negative. Instead of resisting current reality, we move to an energy of acceptance, of surrender. Like, okay, so this is happening. I'm not resisting it. Instead of sweating controllables, we start taking control. We let go of those and we take charge of the things that are inside of our control, specifically our attitudes and our behaviors. And we start actually becoming more empowered. And instead of hoping for things to change, we embrace the situation right now as it is. Metaphorically, like the boxer who's knocked to the floor, we stand up, we dust ourselves off, we pick our heads up and we go, okay, I'm going to be proactive in moving my life forwards. I'm not going to tread water anymore. I'm actually going to start swimming. That's characteristic of the turning point. The next part, once we've turned that corner, it's really to start consolidating. And here I'm talking about consolidating the foundations of our A game that is going to propel us into success in the future. And again, using that athlete who got injured analogy, this is when the athlete now, the injury's over, they start returning to the track and they start training now to return back to participation following the injury. And it's not just about returning as good as they were, but it's actually better. The first thing we need to be doing, and probably the most important part of consolidating the foundation of our A game, is to really build on our strengths. Find and use the best of our skill, our knowledge, our experience. We've never been more knowledgeable or experienced in our lives than what we are now. So it's harnessing the best of that is the first part of building our A game. And then we need to start adding to that, what are the things that are going to be relevant for now and going forwards. The next part we want to start building is our value system and revisit that. I know we all know values. I don't want to patronize you about talking to you about values, but I invite people to just look probably in 5% more detail at their values and really ask, what are the things that are important in my life and in our organization and what's not? I talk a lot about false idols. Those are those more self-serving values, the shiny values that were pursued and very often rewarded pre-COVID that I don't think are going to be a very solid foundation for success going forwards. Those are the values that are more self-serving, like materialism, power, status, acknowledgement, those all that are serving myself. I think the values that are going to underpin and drive success going forwards and are going to be more and more valued are those that are other-oriented. Things like genuine customer service. It's often has been lip service before. Now it's going to be that much more important. Values like caring, compassion, trust, other orientation like integrity, service, community orientation, collaboration, teamwork, etc. And to really set our A game up based on values that serve a cause greater than myself. To ask, what might my purpose have been? And I know we've all heard this. It's a very difficult thing to make explicit. That's why I've got it at the deepest level of the foundation of our A game, because it is difficult. But consider, if there was a reason for you being born with the gifts and the talents you've been given, the opportunities you've currently got, if there was a reason, what might this be? It might not lead you to the answer to that question, but it leads you a little bit closer to coming from a place of purpose. And when we do come from that place, there's a natural motivation, inspiration that comes when we're plugged into that energy. And in fact, I can offer a simple little life hack around finding your purpose. If you are playing to your strengths and you do that to serve a purpose greater than yourself, you will be very close to, if not in your purpose. So with those key pieces of our foundation consolidated, we now look to advance, to move forward into whatever lies ahead as we navigate into the uncertainty. In the Find Your A Game series that I mentioned, just to give you one or two snippets of some key pieces and to offer you something here. First of all is to look really long term. And there's two parts that we can look at. One is our success, our goals, the material things that we achieve through our performance. Very difficult at the moment to know what next year, 3 years, 5 years is going to look like. However, when it comes to our character as opposed to our performance, that we have real control over. So ask yourself, how would you one day want to be remembered as a person when you retire or you're lying on your deathbed? What would you like your colleagues to say about you as a person, your competitors, your fans, your family, your friends? And actually now design or sculpt the legacy we one day want to leave as a human being, and then start living into that today. Also to really take stock of our lives at the moment. And I invite people to look at that in sort of almost an investment versus return equation. Just as a very simple example, we could look at your career, family, health, any area like that, and look at each of those areas as an investment versus return balance sheet, in that return being the quality of experience we're having from any one of those areas of our life. And if we want to increase that quality of experience, what we need to do then is to make smarter investments, specifically in the amount of time and the habits that we're investing in that area. Nobody has enough time to attend to everything we've got to attend to today. So it's about being really smart in how you're investing. And if you want a different experience in any area of your life, it's important that we start making 5% smarter that return. And finally, what we need to do is we built our A game. We've got our plans, both long and short term, in all areas of our life. Now it's time to go and execute on that A game. And again, in the face of more challenges and difficulties that we've had to face. And in executing, it's not much about focus or resilience, I don't believe. It's actually about just navigating past the struggles that are there for our A game. Very much like an athlete who's approaching a big game, they're fully prepared. Now they just need to move the obstacle away for the A game to naturally flow. And there's three areas really where these distractions will come from. Either we're carrying stuff from the past, particularly where things haven't gone well. It leads to us carrying insecurities, doubts, vulnerabilities, low confidence. Where might we offload some of that baggage from the past, the things that have gone wrong, things that people have done to us? We need to offload so we lighten our load to be able to go forward much better. Another big place of distractions is, in fact, two of the biggest mental obstacles to distraction in sport, and I hazard a guess in life, is fear and pressure. And both of those are related to how we look at events in the future. Important to start shifting, even just to a little bit, our relationship to fear and pressure. And the final part is to really look at the present moment, look at what are the habits I'm engaging in all areas of my life, and are they serving me or working against me, and just making some small fine tunes to navigate around the distractions or obstacles that we place in front of ourselves. So that, folks, is a brief journey through, hopefully there's some resonance there, the decline, the turning point. And as I mentioned, I've written a 3-part series where I guide individuals to go and consolidate, advance, and execute, each on your individual unique A game. Thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to moving on and asking some questions and kicking this conversation around a little bit further. Thank you.